Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm co-CEO of Waymo. We are on a mission to build the world's most experienced driver and make it safe and easy for people and things to get where they're going. My 2 days are never the same, but I would say I spend the vast majority of my time thinking about how to enable the really talented team that is committed to this quite audacious mission of allowing this technology to be fully capable of transporting people who are not able to qualify for a driver's license, who do not have to sit behind the driver's seat, but who can be driven from point A to point B. It excites me to have the opportunity, and it also is very humbling, the challenge ahead of us. So enabling the team, and then secondly, I would say, sort of having the difficult conversations that you have to have in order to bring this kind of technology to life. It's not a deeply regulated area, and so we have to make a lot of decisions. We have to build the right frameworks. We have to drive transparency around the actual sort of deployment of the technology into the real world. And then we have to co-create this product with communities that will use the product. And so that's how I spend my days. And it keeps me super busy and also really inspired.
Quick audience poll. Who has heard of Waymo? Great. Okay, that's good to know. So that'll drive my next question, to use another bad pun. But people may not be updated on what's been happening in the last year or two, perhaps. So we certainly have all heard of Waymo, but just tell us a little bit about what's been happening at the company. San Francisco, Phoenix, you've been there 5 years now, which is quite amazing. And Los Angeles is on the horizon, which we're going to get to. But tell us a little about where Waymo is today.
Yes. So as you said, back in 2017, we actually made our ride-hailing fleet of vehicles available to the public. And then in 2018, we actually launched a public service, and that was still with autonomous specialists behind the wheel. During COVID, in October of 2020, we actually did what we're here to do, which is we launched the world's first fully autonomous ride-hailing service. And so that's been running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Since we launched it in October of 2020. And that's really exciting because one, a lot of people think about this space as somewhere between pilots and test cases. And for us, it really has been the opportunity to learn with the community what those transportation pain points are and how do we solve them from a technology perspective, from a product perspective, from an operational perspective, and then just like good old-fashioned consumer delight. Like what do people actually want to do in a fully autonomous vehicle that shows up empty to take you to the destination that you've requested? And so that's been really, really invaluable experience for us. Then we leveraged that experience into San Francisco, where we started taking trusted testers. Those are sort of our early riders who we want to get the feedback. We want to understand what their transportation pain points are, because we don't want to make this technology in a lab under our beliefs of what would be most useful. And so with those trusted testers, we have a couple of, we just had a meetup with our trusted testers, and one who really stood out to me is a single dad who talked about needing to get his 2 boys to school every day, and the cost of doing so had become quite high. The rates changed emerging from COVID with on-demand transportation platforms. And so he's found Waymo to be more predictable in that regard and also safe. He doesn't want to be on buses and subway with his kids. And so just getting that kind of real world feedback is exactly what we're looking for, because that tells us something about pricing that's valuable. And then we've also launched in downtown Phoenix, also on our 5th generation driver like San Francisco. We just launched that to the public last week, and so that's fully autonomous. There's no one in the vehicle. In San Francisco, we still have people in the vehicle because it's a different permitting process, and we're on our way through that. And I'd say we've learned slightly different things in each of those markets, but more than anything, what we've learned is that our hypothesis is playing out, which is that if we start to tackle different types of transportation challenges and different city archetypes, then moving from one to the next will actually start to accelerate over time. And it's now in this moment of accelerating commercialization that's really has the whole organization really excited.
And for those of us who have heard so much about autonomous driving and semi-autonomous driving and fully automated, there are 6 levels of autonomy, which I, did not know. So I'm going to read them very, very briefly. I should have had a PowerPoint for this. Level 0, I hate when they start at level 0 and it's 6, so it's going to go to 5. Level 0 is no assist whatsoever of any kind. Level 1 is single automated system for driver assistance, like adaptive cruise control. Level 2, partial driving automation. Advanced driver assistance systems, steering, accelerating, decelerating, but there's still a human in the driver's seat. Level 3, conditional driving automation, where environmental detection capabilities are there, makes informed decisions. I guess that's where AI is coming into it. Level 4, which is where you are, where you start, really. High driving automation. Level 4 cars are autonomous, no human driver needed, but geofenced, which is, I suppose, the condition. And then level 5, full driving automation without geographic limits. Cars probably won't even have steering wheels eventually. So you made a choice to start at level 4. Can you talk a little bit about that decision? And then, is it level 5 is where you hope to get to and where we all get to in your vision for the future?
Yeah, that's the fastest I've ever heard anyone go through the levels of automation, so thanks for that. So we are really committed to level 4 and above, as you said. Our mission as a company relates to road safety. If you all don't know, 1.35 million people are killed on the roads globally every year. Another 50 million are injured. We believe that's largely preventable. We know the vast majority are caused by human inattentiveness, error, fatigue, inebriation, distraction, et cetera. And so we're really focused on how do you deploy this technology in a way that doesn't ask the human to stay in the loop. All of those other levels of autonomy require the human to take over at usually the most critical moment. And we're not going to invite you to be distracted and then invite you to be attentive because that's not safe driving. And so we had that back in 2012. We actually allowed employees to do what we referred to back then as autopilot. And they could take the autopilot on the 101 to and from work, but we told them, we're going to have cameras. We need you to pay attention. This technology cannot drive you. You have to pay attention. And what we saw is, and it makes sense, like if you give me the chance to unplug, I'm going to unplug. There's other stuff I have to do. I have emails to send. I have phone calls I want to make. And so that's what people did. They started shaving. They started applying makeup. They started pulling out their laptops to plug in their phones, which for some reason, I guess they didn't have the right adapter for the lighter. And so we stopped that program. Our then head of safety, who had just come to us from NHTSA, was like, "What? Like, absolutely not. This is not working." And it's because humans trust the technology beyond its capability, even when we're crystal clear, and even when they're employees who know that we're monitoring because it's a pilot. That's when we made the decision in 2013 that for us, if this is really about safety, and it is, then the only way is if you can remove the human from the loop. And so that's why we're focused on level 4 autonomy. As you said, level 4 is, as I've mentioned, downtown Phoenix. We also transport people to and from the Sky Harbor International Airport. That was really exciting for us. So it is specific territories. That's this notion of ODDs. That doesn't mean they're small. And so we've been operating in 50 square miles in a lot of places, about the size of San Francisco. And our launch in downtown Phoenix, including the airport, gives us a chance to ramp up.
And are the cars actually geofenced?
Well, this is my point. The cars aren't geofenced, but the territory we're serving is absolutely predefined.
Right. In terms of LA is next, right? So, yeah. I mean, the mother of all car cultures. Talk to us about,
will New York give LA the run for their money? I don't know.
A lot of us don't drive in New York.
Oh,
we were just talking about the scooters now and the bikes, and that's another conversation about New York. What's your approach to Los Angeles now based on what you've learned in Phoenix? San Francisco is probably a slightly more complicated city as well and what you've learned there. But, are you going to start in a particular area of LA that's perhaps a little, not as many edge scenarios, I guess, which are the unprepared, what you're unprepared for. How are you going to deal with LA and getting into that market? Yeah,
it's a little counterintuitive. Like often people say like, oh, you guys started in the East Valley of Phoenix because of the wide roads. And it's like, no, we started there because the regulatory climate was favorable, because the transportation Demands are diverse. There's a very old population in Arizona, and there's a very young population in Arizona. Those present very different transportation challenges in every community around this country, and it's the fastest growing region. So that's why we chose it, and then within that context, we were able to build an end-to-end service. San Francisco gives us the chance to really engage with a lot of vulnerable road users, right? Cyclists, pedestrians, like you said, scooters. There's just a lot to be learned. And so the counterintuitive nature is we always want to tackle what's hard first. That's how the driver gets smarter. Us doing the same route every single day
And probably how
might
your
work.
software gets smarter, too.
It's how the software gets smarter. It's how the Waymo driver gets smarter. Those edge cases are actually how we advance the technology. So that's how we think about commercialization. What are all of the actual skill sets that the driver needs? And when I say the driver, I'm talking about the Waymo driver, which is software, hardware, as well as a compute platform. We do it all in-house. What does it need to learn in order to tackle all of the driving tasks so we can eventually get to level 5?
And from a business model perspective, kind of just top line, what is the business model? Is it similar to Uber in the sense of you're charging people for the ride? And has it evolved since you launched? And do you see it evolving even more?
Yes, so business model, we have certainly ride hailing is our primary bet and what we focus on the most. And the reason is we know that it gives us the chance to make this technology available to the largest number of people the fastest. Most people, when they hear about autonomous vehicles, think like, when are they going to be available for sale? When can I go buy one? And as you just said, Drew, that would require level 5 capability because you expect for it to be able to take you wherever you want to go. And so ride hailing is our first business model. In the question around how have we evolved that, I think one of them is just like the features. You know, what happens in a vehicle that's genuinely your own space when you get in there? And one of the earliest discoveries that we had is, we all know we can get in a ride-hailing network and we can take over the music if we want. I've never done it because it does feel like I'm in someone else's car and I'm taking over their music. But what we found immediately is people got into the Waymo vehicles and they played their own music. And they jammed out to their own music. Like, they weren't just playing their own music, but they had this sense of like, oh, this is mine for this ride. And so that's been really exciting to see.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. Has anyone ever got in the car and just said, I don't want to, like on a roller coaster in line or something, and said, I don't want to do this and get out?
That has not happened.
Never happened.
That has not happened. And I think I personally have encouraged, the biggest skeptics are the people I want to take the ride. And I want them to take the ride because we're a learning culture and we want to learn. Like, what makes you skeptical of this? Is it, just sort of your bias about tech? Is it your belief about the people around the car? Like, it's so interesting how many people are like, I believe you guys are safe, but I'm just not trusting everyone else, and I worry about how the car is going to interact. And what we find again and again is people go, they take the ride, they get out, and there's this like haze that happens, and they're like, the future is here, and you're like,
Right.
yeah, welcome to Waymo.
Well, you've been very kind to offer me. I'm going to be in town for a little
Yes.
while, so you've been very kind to offer me my first Waymo ride. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm definitely going to. Maybe selfies will be involved. I do have a little
But
bit
you're
of time.
not allowed to like get out like it's a roller coaster ride.
Right.
You can't make yourself the first person to do that.
You start the rider starts the ride with a push of a button. Is that correct?
That's right. You get in, so you use the Waymo app, which anyone, if you're ever in Phoenix, you can just right now download the app. You can sign up for it. Then when you're there, you open the Waymo app and it'll show you the cars that are available in the territory. You say the destination you want to go to. A car shows up. It's completely empty. If you're in downtown Phoenix, it's a Jaguar JLR I-Pace that shows up. You get in the back seat. There's no one in the front, and you don't sit in the front. You get in the back seat and you shut the door, and then there's a screen in front of you that actually shows you the world around the vehicle. What is the car seeing? So it'll have, people and lights and speed limit and all of that, and then you push start ride, and then it takes you where you want to go. And the amazing thing is, at first, you're kind of looking at the steering wheel move, and you're kind of like, wow, this is so cool. I'm in the future. And then you're like, well, anyway, I have those emails I need to send. And so like very quickly, just get back to what we all want to get back to, which is what we need to do with that precious 30 minutes between point A and point B.
And we are pretty much at time, but I did want to very, very briefly get your answer just in terms of how you're working with communities. You know, a lot of the other companies came in and kind of even bullied their ways into communities. You know, you're working very collaboratively with the municipalities, counties. Just briefly on that, your approach to working with the communities that you're in.
We think the only way to do this is to connect with those organizations that are also trying to solve pain points. And so we have the Waymo Accessibility Network. As I said in the beginning, we want to widen the aperture of people who can take advantage of this technology. And so whether it's multiple sclerosis or epilepsy, the list goes on, vision impaired, we think that that's the way to do it. And then working state, local, federal policymakers, this is not a move fast and break things. This is a move with great iterative pace and focus on safety, build a product that's worthy and that actually earns the opportunity for your business.
That's great. This has been great, and I'm really looking forward to my Waymo ride, so I'll be emailing you soon.
Awesome.
But a round of applause for Tekedra. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.